I saved 3 drowning children and received a bravery award of 300,000 yuan at the awards ceremony. Lin Ji, a poor student from my class, suddenly rushed out and knelt before me, saying his father had cancer and needed 300,000 yuan, begging me to lend him the money to save his life. In my previous life, with a warm heart, I gave him the 300,000 yuan that I hadn't even warmed up yet. Little did I know, this was the beginning of my nightmare. From then on, he clung to me like a leech, constantly draining me, whether it was his grandmother falling ill, his mother getting injured, or his sister lacking tuition fees, repeatedly using moral blackmail against me, even forcing me to take out online loans. It turned out that he used my money to buy a house and various luxury items. When I refused to give him more money, he got angry and pushed me down the stairs. If it weren't for you, how would I know how good it is to live with money, since you've let me taste the benefits? You can't make me go back to those poor days. You've ruined me, you know that. I fell to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back to the moment when I received the bravery award from the principal, and Lin Ji rushed onto the stage and knelt before me. At this moment, I stood on the award stage in the school auditorium. The principal had just handed me a check for 300,000 yuan. The auditorium was packed with teachers and students, and the flashlights kept going off. In their eyes, there was admiration, envy, and something else that was hard to describe. Just as I was about to speak a few words of thanks, a figure suddenly rushed up from the audience. It's Lin Ji, the impoverished student in our class, always wearing a faded school uniform, quiet and reserved. He rushed up to me in a few steps. With a thud, he knelt down in front of me. His knees hit the hard stage floor with a dull thud. The entire auditorium fell silent. Instantly, all eyes were fixed on us. Lin Ji raised his head, his face pale, eyes bloodshot, and lips trembling. Man Luo, please, help me. His voice trembled with tears, filled with despair. My father has cancer, and the doctor said it would cost 300,000 yuan for the surgery. It's a matter of life and death. I know this money is very important to you, but I really have no other choice. My family has already sold everything we have. Please lend me the money. I promise I'll pay you back later. I'll write an IOU, and I'll repay you even if I have to work like a horse. As he spoke, he kowtowed forcefully, and his forehead quickly turned red. Looking at this familiar scene before me, my blood almost froze instantly. In my previous life, it was right here, watching him weep with emotion, hearing the whispers around us saying he's so pitiful and Man Luo should help him. My heart softened, my blood was boiling, feeling that although 300,000 was significant, human life was at stake. I almost didn't hesitate before handing over that check. Still warm from the ink, I said, take the money first to save your uncle. There's no need for an IOU. We can talk about any difficulties later. At that moment, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Everyone praised me for being kind and selfless. Lin Ji also tearfully thanked me profusely, saying I was the savior of their family. But I never could have imagined that day was not the beginning of salvation. It was the prelude to my nightmare. His father's cancer was real, but it didn't require 300,000 yuan at all. Most of that money was embezzled by him. At first, he would occasionally report to me about his father's condition. Before long, he started coming up with various excuses to ask for money. Man Luo, my grandmother had a heart attack and needs hospitalization fees. Man Luo, my mother broke her leg while working in the fields, and we're still a bit short on the surgery fee. Man Luo, my sister got into a key high school, but the tuition is too expensive, and our family really can't afford it. Every time, they appear to be at their wits' end. Every time, they speak with a tearful voice, recounting the misfortunes of their family. People around also began to chime in. Man Luo, you're a big hero now. You can afford this. Lin Ji is so pitiful. Who else would help him if not you? You could come up with 300,000 back then. Why not this now? The shackles of morality, layer upon layer, bind me. I became the one who must constantly give. The slightest hesitation would be met with accusations of being cold-hearted and selfish. To satisfy him, I began to scrimp and save later. The amount he asked for grew larger and larger. When I really couldn't come up with it, he started urging me to take out online loans. Man Luo, just borrow a little first. Once my family gets through this, I'll pay it back right away. The interest isn't high, it's just for a short term turnover. Otherwise, my dad will have to stop his medication again. I couldn't shake him off and felt suffocated by the surrounding stares. I really went to borrow money with compound interest. The debt snowballed, growing larger and larger, until one day, I accidentally saw Lin Ji driving a brand new car, wearing designer clothes, coming out of an upscale residential area. Only then did I snap out of it. I confronted him head-on. At first, he tried to wriggle out of it. Once I exposed him, the humility and pitifulness on his face vanished without a trace. In their place was a nearly feral greed and venom. So what if it is, to Man Luo, if it weren't for you, how would I have known how good life with money could be? Since you've let me taste the sweetness, you can't make me go back to that poor life I had before. You've ruined me, do you know that? I was trembling with anger. demanding that he return the money and fill the hole in the online loan. He let out a cold laugh. The money's all spent. How can I return it? If you push me any further, we'll all go down together. During the argument, he suddenly pushed me. I was standing at the edge of the rooftop of the residential complex. My body lost balance and fell like a withered leaf. At the moment the feeling of weightlessness hit me, I saw him standing on the rooftop, with no trace of guilt on his face, only a cold, almost relieved indifference. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know how good it is to have money. How can you make me poor again? These words of his became the final echo at the end of my life. A chilling sensation rose from my feet, pulling me back from the abyss of memories. I looked down at Linji kneeling on the ground. He is still crying, still acting. The red mark on his forehead is just right. His voice is choked, every word filled with despair. The surrounding murmurs have already started. Oh my, that's so pitiful. Cancer. That's a terminal illness. 300,000, just enough to save his life. What a coincidence. Manluo just got a bonus. She should help him, right? Definitely. She's a hero who bravely stood up for justice. Familiar words, familiar atmosphere, exactly the same as in the previous life, only this time my heart is as cold as ice. I looked at Linji and slowly began to speak. My voice was not loud, but it clearly echoed throughout the silent grand auditorium. Linji, you should stand up first. Linji seemed caught off guard by my reaction, his sobs pausing momentarily before growing even louder. No, you have to agree to help me, or I won't get up. Manluo, please, save my father. As he spoke, he was about to kowtow again. I took a step back, avoiding his action. I told you to stand up and talk properly. My tone was flat, devoid of any emotion. The murmurs from the audience gradually subsided, as if everyone sensed something was amiss. Linji's face was stiff, but he still insisted on kneeling. Manluo, I know this request is excessive, but I really have no other options. Your money, earned through the honor of risking your life, but my father's life is also very important. He started playing the emotional card, trying to use life to morally blackmail me. In my previous life, I was moved by this very sentence. No matter how important money is, it is never more important than human life. But now I understand, my life was once easily trampled upon because of this money, because of him. Linji, I said, looking into his eyes, word by word, I feel sorry that your father is sick, but that's not a reason for you to rush here, kneel before me, and force me to give you the money. Linji's eyes widened abruptly, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. The audience below instantly erupted into an uproar. What does that mean? Manluo isn't planning to help him. What's going on here? Isn't she a hero? Isn't that a bit cold-hearted? After all, it's a human life. The principal also walked over, his face showing signs of distress. Manluo, let's talk this through. First, let Linji get up. Don't do this. I ignored the principal and continued to look at Linji. Your father has cancer and needs 300,000 yuan for surgery. Have you applied for financial aid from the school for this situation? Linji was taken aback for a moment, his eyes flickering slightly. I applied for it, but the school's subsidy is too small. It's not enough at all. Is that so? I raised an eyebrow slightly. As far as I know, the school has a special relief fund for serious illnesses, with a maximum of 100,000 yuan available. Did you apply for that? Linji's face turned somewhat pale. I haven't had the chance yet. Didn't have time. I smiled, a cold edge to my expression. Your father is critically ill and needs 300,000 yuan for surgery, yet you have time to come here and kneel to beg me, but no time to apply for the school's relief fund. Linji's lips moved, but no words came out. The murmurs from the audience began to take on a different tone. Right, doesn't the school have a relief fund? Why doesn't he apply? Could it be that he wants to directly claim Manluo's bonus? Linji clearly heard these speculations and his face flashed with a hint of panic. He quickly explained, that's not what I meant. I just thought it would be faster with Manluo, and besides, 100,000 isn't enough. Not enough. We can think of other ways, I said calmly. For example, seeking help from society, launching a crowdfunding campaign. With the internet being so developed, many people would be willing to help those who are truly in need. Or, you could talk to the hospital and see if they can let you pay a portion later, after things settle down. There are many ways, but you chose the worst one. I paused and raised my voice. You rushed onto the award stage, knelt before me in front of the entire school, and used your father's illness to force me to give you this bravery award. This is not asking for help, this is moral Coercion, moral coercion. The 4 words exploded like a bomb in the grand auditorium. Everyone was stunned, including Linji. He abruptly raised his head, his grief and despair replaced by a fury born of being exposed. I'm not, he retorted hastily. I was just at my wit's end. I really had no other choice. Being in a desperate situation is not a reason for you to kidnap someone. I looked at him, my gaze sharp. Linji, do you understand what this money means to me? This is not just an ordinary sum of money, it's paid for with my life. That day, 3 children fell into the lake. The water was freezing, and the current was strong. When I jumped in, I didn't even think about whether I could make it back up. I desperately pushed each of them ashore, nearly getting tangled in seaweed and drowning myself. This money is a reward for my act of bravery, an acknowledgement of my efforts. It's not just 300,000, it is my honor, earned with courage and at the risk of my own life. You are using your father's illness to demand that I give you this money. Do you think that's fair? My voice was not loud, but it carried a penetrating power. The audience was completely silent. Those voices accusing me of being cold-hearted have all disappeared. In their place, there is silence, and some thoughtful gazes. Linji's face alternates between red and white. He opened his mouth as if wanting to argue, but couldn't find the right words. I didn't mean it like that. I pressed. Just thought that since I just got the money, it's perfect for you to use. Just thought I should be a bit more selfless, a bit kinder, and give the money to you. Linji, kindness shouldn't be without boundaries. My kindness is about saving children from drowning, helping those who truly need help and know how to be grateful, not becoming a tool for your endless demands. I said that last sentence very strongly because I know it's a lesson learned from the bloody past life. Linji's body jolted violently. He looked at me, his eyes filled with shock and confusion, as if he didn't recognize me anymore. In his impression, I had always been a gentle, even somewhat timid girl. In my previous life, I would have softened at his pleas, but now, I am calm and sharp, my words cutting through his facade like knives. How can you say that? Linji's voice trembled, unsure if it was from anger or panic. My father is really on his last legs. You're letting him die without help. How can you live up to your title as a hero? He was already trying to pin the blame on me, trying to bind me with the title of hero. In my previous life, I was bound tightly by this title, but now, I laughed. I saved 3 children from drowning, which justifies the title of hero, but that doesn't mean I have to save everyone or meet everyone's demands. I am a hero, not a saint. Nor am I your ATM, Linji. If you truly want to save your father, please seek help in the right way, instead of being here, using such despicable means to exploit others' kindness and honor. After saying that, I stopped looking at him. I turned around to face the teachers and students below the stage. Dear teachers and fellow students, I know everyone sympathizes with Linji's situation, same here, but sympathy doesn't mean one can be morally coerced. I have my own plans for this prize money. I will donate a portion to the school's relief fund to help more people in need, like the father of Linji's classmate. The remaining amount, I will save it for my future tuition and living expenses, and also as a memento of my act of bravery this time. I won't give it directly to Linji, not because I'm cold-hearted, but because I don't want my kindness to become a reason for others to take advantage. Even less do I want this money, earned through courage, to be misused. I'm done speaking. The auditorium was completely silent. A few seconds later, it was unclear who started the applause first. Then, the applause grew louder and louder. It was even more enthusiastic and sincere than the applause when I received the award earlier. Well said, Manluo is right. Why should we be morally coerced? The reward for bravery should be entirely up to her to decide. Linji has gone too far, forcing someone like this. The wind has completely shifted direction. Linji knelt on the ground, his face as pale as paper. He looked at the disdainful and accusing gazes of those around him, at my resolute expression, and finally understood. This time, his plan fell through. He abruptly stood up from the ground, gave me a venomous glare, then covered his face and dashed off the stage, fleeing the auditorium in disgrace. No one stopped him, no one comforted him. Watching his retreating figure fleeing in panic, I felt no sense of satisfaction in my heart, only a weariness after a sense of relief. The debt from my previous life, in this one, I can finally sever it with my own hands. The principal walked over, patted my shoulder, and his eyes were filled with approval. Miss Manluo, you did the right thing. I nodded and tightened my grip on the check in my hand. The edges of the check felt a bit rough against my skin, but this time, I could clearly feel that it belonged to me, only to me. From this moment on, my life will be back in my own hands. After the awards ceremony, I became an even more prominent figure at school. Some say I am upright and unyielding, adhering To principals, others say I am cold-hearted and indifferent, unwilling to help in times of need, but I no longer care about these discussions. In my previous life, I lived too exhaustingly just to meet others' expectations. In this life, I only want to live for myself. I immediately went to the bank and deposited the 300,000 yuan bonus. Then, I withdrew 30,000 yuan and donated it to the school's relief fund. I didn't make a big announcement, I just quietly completed the procedures. I didn't want to be bound by any halos anymore. After doing all this, I felt completely at ease. It felt as if the mountain that had been pressing down on me was finally lifted. When I returned to the classroom, the atmosphere was somewhat delicate. My classmates looked at me with a variety of expressions. There was curiosity, admiration, and also some distance. Lin Ji didn't come to class. His seat was empty. Like a silent irony, Qin Shui, the desk mate, leaned over and whispered, "Man Luo, you're really amazing. I was scared to death yesterday, thinking you were going to be soft-hearted again." Qin Shui was one of the few friends I had in my previous life, but later, due to the incident involving Lin Ji, we grew distant. In this life, I don't want to lose this friend again. I smiled and said, "I was just too naive back then." Qin Shui sighed. Lin Ji was really too much, even if there were family difficulties. He shouldn't have done that. By the way, I heard from his roommate that his father is indeed sick, but it doesn't seem as serious as he claims, and he doesn't need as much as 300,000. I am not surprised. In my previous life, I later found out the truth. His father only had early-stage common cancer, and the surgery plus follow-up treatment would cost around 100,000. He demanded 300,000, driven by nothing but greed. "Let it be," I said calmly, "just take care of yourself." Qin Shui nodded and said nothing more. In the following days, Lin Ji did not show up. Rumors about him grew more and more. Some say he deliberately swindled money, others claim his father's illness was fake, and some even say he dropped out of school out of shame and anger after I rejected him. It wasn't until a week later Lin Ji reappeared in the classroom. He had lost weight, his face was haggard, his eyes were bloodshot, and he looked as if he had been pulling all-nighters for days. As soon as he entered the classroom, all eyes were on him. He kept his head down, quickly walked to his seat, and lay on the desk, motionless. He maintained that posture throughout the entire class. When class ended, I was about to go out for some fresh air. Lin Ji suddenly raised his head and called out to me, "Tuan Man Luo." His voice was hoarse, carrying a weary rasp. I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at him. Something wrong. He stood up and walked over to me. All the classmates around held their breath, watching us. Lin Ji's eyes were red, as if he had a lot to say, but in the end, he simply took a piece of paper out of his pocket and handed it to me. "This is my father's diagnosis certificate and the hospital's expense list." I was truly overwhelmed with anxiety before I didn't take that piece of paper. I just quietly looked at him. In my previous life, he had also used similar things to win my sympathy. Those so-called diagnostic reports and expense lists, I later found out, were either forged or deliberately exaggerated in amount. Seeing that I wouldn't take it, Lin Ji's hand froze in midair, a flicker of embarrassment and awkwardness crossing his face. "Man Luo, I know I was wrong on the award stage last time. I apologize to you, but my father's illness is real, and the costs are indeed very high." That day, I was truly at my wit's end and acted impulsively. His voice was kept very low, deliberately conveying a sense of humility. Later, I applied for the school's relief fund and launched a crowdfunding campaign, but the money is still far from enough. The doctor said if we can't gather enough money, the surgery will have to be postponed. Every day we delay, the risk increases. He lifted his head, his eyes beginning to redden again. "I know you don't believe me, and if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't believe me either, but I really didn't lie to you. Look at this list. It has the hospital's official seal. It's genuine." He pushed the paper forward again, almost touching my hand. The murmurs around us started up once more. "It looks like it might be real. What if he's telling the truth? What about his father? Shouldn't Man Luo reconsider? After all, it's a matter of life and death." Familiar rhetoric, familiar pressure. I could even feel those gazes pricking me like needles, but this time, my heart remained completely undisturbed. "Lin Ji," I spoke, my voice still calm, "your diagnosis certificate and expense list have nothing to do with me." Lin Ji's face instantly turned very unpleasant. "Your father is sick and needs money. That's your difficulty, not my responsibility. I understand your anxiety, but I won't take on anything for you just because you're anxious. I've already donated 30,000 to the school's relief fund. If you meet the criteria, some of that money will be used for you. Beyond that, I won't give you a single cent." My words were spoken directly, even to the point of being cold. Gasps echoed all around. Some thought I was too heartless, but I don't care, compared to the despair of being driven to jump off a building by him in my previous Life, what does this bit of heartlessness amount to? Lin Ji's lips trembled, and the red veins in his eyes became even more pronounced. To a man, though, how can you be so cold-blooded? That's a human life. You clearly have the ability to help. Why are you unwilling to lend a hand? His voice started to rise again, filled with anger after being refused. Cold-blooded, I laughed. When I saved 3 children I'd never met. Why didn't you call me cold-blooded then, when I donated 1/10 of the prize money to the relief fund? Why didn't you call me cold-blooded? Lin Ji, it's my money, and I have the right to decide how to use it. I can choose to donate it to the fund to help more people, or I can choose to keep it for myself to improve my life, but I won't choose to give it to you, because you don't deserve it. I emphasized the last 3 words. Lin Ji staggered back a step, as if he had been punched hard. He looked at me, his eyes filled with disbelief and resentment. I'm not worthy. To Manlo, what gives you the right to say I'm not worthy? Just because I'm poor, just because I'm not a great hero like you. His voice grew more agitated, drawing more people to gather around. Is it because I'm poor that my father deserves to die waiting? Is it because you're rich that you can afford to let someone die without helping? Your money was earned with your life, but does that mean my father's life is worthless? He began to shout, as if to vent all his resentment. Do you think refusing me makes you noble? You're just selfish, stingy, afraid I won't be able to repay you. You're not a hero at all. You're just a cold-hearted miser. The vicious words came at me like a tidal wave. The people around were stunned by his agitation, and for a moment, no one dared to speak. Watching his hysterical state, I suddenly found it somewhat amusing. This is the gratitude I nurtured with 300,000 in my previous life. This is what he calls repaying by working like an ox or a horse. Lin Ji, I looked at him, my gaze icy. Are you done talking? My calmness left him speechless, and he was momentarily at a loss for words. Once you're done speaking, please step aside. I need to leave. I turned sideways, intending to walk past him, but he suddenly reached out and grabbed my arm. His grip was strong, his nails almost digging into my flesh. You're not leaving, he shouted with red eyes. You're not going anywhere until you give me the money. I frowned and tried to wrench my hand free from his grip. Let go. I won't. He held on tightly. You're not leaving until you agree to my terms. If anything happens to my dad, I'm holding you responsible. He started acting shamelessly. Finally, the people around couldn't stand it anymore. Lin Ji, what are you doing? Let go. Let's talk it out. Don't resort to violence. Chen Shui also ran over, trying to pull Lin Ji's hand away. Lin Ji, let Man Luo go. What you're doing is illegal. But Lin Ji seemed to have gone mad, refusing to listen to anyone. I don't care, either she gives me the money, or I won't let her leave. If my dad dies, I don't want to live either. We might as well all go down together. His emotions grew increasingly agitated, and his grip on my arm tightened more and more. I could feel the sharp pain radiating from my arm. I could also sense a hint of why bother in the looks people around me were giving me, as if simply taking out the money could settle everything, can satisfy everyone, but I won't. I yanked my hand away with all my strength. Because of the force, he staggered back a few steps, almost falling. I rubbed my reddened arm, coldly staring at him. Lin Ji, what you're doing is illegal. Your actions just now constitute harassment and unlawful restraint. If you continue like this, I will call the police. My voice was not loud, but it carried an undeniable firmness. Lin Ji was stunned. He probably didn't expect me to say the words call the police. In his perception, I should be the weak and easily bullied person who would compromise as soon as pressure was applied. The people around were also stunned. Obviously, the decision to call the police exceeded their expectations. You're going to call the police on me? Lin Ji's voice trembled slightly, tinged with fear. Just because I asked you for a loan? Just because I grabbed you? No. I shook my head. It's because you harassed me, restricted my personal freedom, and tried to coerce me into giving you money through threats. All of that is enough to justify calling the police. I took out my phone and made a gesture as if I were about to dial. Lin Ji's face instantly turned deathly pale. Although he was selfish and greedy, after all, he was still a student, and he had a natural fear of the words, call the police. You, don't call the police, he said urgently. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I won't dare do it again. I shouldn't have grabbed you. Shouldn't have stopped you. I apologize to you, he said, and even wanted to kneel down again. I took a step back and avoided it. There's no need to apologize, I said to him. I just want you to understand that everyone has to take responsibility for their actions. You figure out your own problems, don't come looking for me again, and don't harass me in any way, otherwise I won't waste any more words with you and will call the police directly. After saying that, I didn't look at him again and turned to walk out of the classroom. Qinshui quickly followed. Even after walking far from the classroom, the sound of discussions from inside could still be heard. Qinshui tugged at my arm and whispered, "Manluo, you were really impressive just now, but are you really going to call the police?" I shook my head, "Not unless absolutely necessary, but he needs to know that I'm not someone to be trifled with." Qinshui nodded, "Yeah. He looked really scary just now, by the way. Are you okay? Your arm is all red." I glanced at the red mark on my arm and smiled nonchalantly. "It's fine, it'll go away in a bit. Compared to the bones broken from being pushed off the building by him in my previous life, what does this little red mark matter?" However, I know, this was only the beginning. Someone like Linji would not give up easily. His selfishness and greed destined him to go to any lengths to get what he wanted, and I must be fully prepared. Sure enough, not long after, rumors about me began to spread like wildfire at school. At first, it was just said that I was cold-hearted and unwilling to help in an emergency. They said I was keeping the bonus I earned at the risk of my life, yet refused to share even a bit to save a classmate's father. Later, the rumors became more and more outrageous. Some said that I didn't genuinely save those 3 children at all, but deliberately jumped in for the 30,000 yuan reward. Some even claimed that the children falling into the water was entirely orchestrated by me, all for the purpose of fraudulently obtaining the reward. These rumors spread like a virus throughout the campus. Wherever I go, I can feel those strange gazes. Some point fingers behind my back, others deliberately discuss loudly, waiting to see my reaction. Qinshui stood up for me. "Are these people crazy? How can they say such things? Manluo, you're clearly a hero. They're just jealous that you got the bonus and got caught up in the rhythm of Linji's affair." I looked out the window and calmly said, "Let them talk. People have their own mouths, and I can't stop them from saying whatever they want. In my previous life, I cared too much about what others thought, always wanting to explain and prove myself. So what happened? The more I explained, the messier things got. The more I tried to prove myself, the more guilty I seemed. In this life, I don't want to waste my efforts anymore. The pure will remain pure, and the impure will remain impure. Time will prove everything." "But they're going too far," Qinshui said indignantly. "I heard it was Linji spreading rumors about you behind your back. He must be doing it because you didn't give him money, and he's deliberately seeking revenge. I am not surprised, given Linji's personality, being rejected by me and losing face in front of everyone. He would definitely find a way to retaliate. Spreading rumors is the most effective method for someone like him." "I know," I said calmly, "but without evidence, saying anything is useless, and even if there were evidence, what could be done about it? At most, the teacher will criticize him a few times, but the rumors will still spread." Qinshui sighed. "So you're just going to let people keep saying that about you? Otherwise what?" I smiled. "Go explain to each of them one by one, or fight Linji. None of it works. All I can do now is ignore it and not be affected. Study hard, live well." After a long time, they find it boring and naturally stop talking about it. That may be true, but hearing people talk about me like that couldn't leave me completely unaffected. However, I had already learned to suppress those negative emotions. Compared to what I went through in my previous life, these rumors were really nothing. Yet, things didn't settle down over time as I had hoped. It only escalated further. Some parents even began to complain to the school, accusing me of bad behavior and saying I was unfit to be a hero, demanding that the school revoke my bonus and honorary title. Under pressure, the school actually called me in for a talk. In the office, the Dean of Discipline sat across from me, looking very serious. "Manluo, you must have heard the rumors circulating around school recently, right?" I nodded. "I've heard about it." "Then do you have anything you'd like to explain?" The Dean looked at me. "For example, about your motivation for saving someone, and the matter between you and Linji." I looked at the Dean and suddenly felt somewhat ridiculous. "Dean, when I saved someone, I didn't think about motivation. The situation was urgent at the time, and all I could think about was saving the child. As for the bonus and honors, they are acknowledgements from the school and society, not something I sought. As for Linji, I've made it very clear, helping him is a gesture of goodwill, and not helping is my right. I have no obligation to take responsibility for his difficulties." The Dean frowned. "Miss Manluo, I know you've been wronged, but the impact now is very bad. Many parents and students have complaints. You see, could you think of a way to calm this down? For example, could you reconsider the matter of Mr. Linji? Even helping a little less could silence some people." I could hardly believe my ears. He's actually trying to persuade me to compromise with Linji as well, just because of those baseless rumors. "Director," my tone turned cold, "you're a teacher. You should know what's right and what's wrong. There's nothing wrong with me saving someone, and there's nothing wrong with refusing to be morally coerced either. Why should I compromise, just because he can make a fuss, spread rumors? If I compromise this time, does that mean anyone with difficulties can force me this way in the future? Then wouldn't this hero of mine become a soft persimmon that anyone can squeeze? The dean was left speechless by my words, his face turning pale and then flushed. That's not what I meant. I just think it's better to avoid trouble. Dean, I interrupted him, some things can't be avoided just because they're troublesome. If even the school tolerates such moral coercion and the spreading of rumors, who would dare to do good deeds in the future? Who dares to stick to principles anymore? My voice wasn't loud, but it carried a certain force. The head teacher looked at me, his expression complicated. After a long while, he finally sighed and said, "You're right. It was my oversight. The school will step forward to clarify this matter and will also provide criticism and education to those spreading rumors. Rest assured, the school will protect your reputation." Although I knew the school's protection might be limited, hearing his words still brought me a sense of relief. At least, he wasn't completely on the side of the rumors. Stepping out of the office, the sunlight was a bit blinding. I squinted my eyes, but my mind was clear. The school's clarification would likely be hard-pressed to truly quell the rumors. What those people want is not the truth, but rather a result that aligns with their expectations. They expect me to be a perfect hero, selfless, devoted, always putting others' needs before my own. Once I fail to meet these expectations, they become disappointed, angry, and attack me with the most vicious words. This is the blindness and selfishness of human nature. They don't care about the truth. They only care about whether their emotions are satisfied, and Linji precisely took advantage of this. Sure enough, after the school's clarification announcement was posted, it had little effect. Some even say that the school was bought off by me to speak on my behalf. The rumors continue to spread. Linji, however, acts as if nothing has happened, attending classes on time every day, but the look in his eyes grows increasingly sinister. He no longer comes to me on his own, yet somehow, I always manage to hear negative things about myself from him. I knew he was waiting. Wait until I can't bear the pressure of the rumors and take the initiative to compromise with him. Wait until, like in my previous life, I hand over the money with both hands. But he doesn't know, in this life, I am no longer that little girl who cares about what others think. His rumors can't hurt me in the slightest. The peaceful days didn't last long. Linji's patience was clearly worse than I had imagined. Seeing that rumors couldn't break me, he began to take more direct measures. That afternoon, I went to the library to read. By the time I left the library, it was already dark. Just as I reached a quiet corner, a figure suddenly darted out from the side and blocked my path. It's Linji. Behind him were two other boys, who looked rather rough and weren't from our class. My heart tightened, and I instinctively took a step back, watching them warily. To Amanlo, "Let's talk." Linji's voice was low, carrying a sinister chill. "I have nothing to say to you," I said coldly. "Step aside." "Nothing to say," Linji laughed, a hint of cruelty in his smile. "You've ruined me so badly. How could there be nothing to talk about? My father's surgery has been delayed for a long time because we didn't have enough money, and his condition is getting worse and worse, all because of you. I'm being pointed at and gossiped about at school, unable to hold my head up, all because of you." He grew more and more agitated as he spoke, the resentment in his eyes almost overflowing. "Why do you get to live a carefree life with 300,000? Why do you get to watch my family fall apart? Today, you must give me the money, otherwise, don't even think about leaving." The two boys behind him also took a step forward, wearing malicious smiles on their faces. It was clear that they were here to threaten me. In my previous life, although he had always pestered me for money, he never dared to use this kind of approach. It seems that this lifetime of rejection has truly enraged him. "Linji, what do you want?" I forced myself to stay calm. "This is school. Do you dare to lay a hand on me?" "Lay a hand on you," Linji sneered. "We just want to have a good talk with you. If you know what's good for you, just hand over the money and we'll all save trouble. Otherwise," he glanced at the two boys behind him, "I can't guarantee what might happen." The two boys obligingly flexed their wrists, producing a crack-crack sound. The threat was obvious. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. A direct confrontation is definitely not an option. As a girl, I can't possibly take on three of them. Run, they're blocking the way, and I might not even be able to escape. Just at this tense moment, a delicate voice suddenly came from the side. "Oh my, isn't that Manluo and Linji? What are you two doing here so late?" I turned my head and saw Suyu from our class. Suyu was very delicate looking, always speaking in a soft voice. She loved playing the peacemaker, always stepping in to mediate whenever there was a small conflict, appearing gentle and harmless, but in reality, she was most skilled at pretending to be clueless while using subtle tactics to hurt people. In my previous life, she often whispered in my ear about how pitiful Linji was, urging me to help him one last time, seemingly for my own good, but actually pushing me deeper into the mire step by step. At this moment, she was carrying a thermos, as if she had just come out of the study room, her face showing just the right amount of surprise. Suya, Linji saw her and his eyes flickered, as if he hadn't expected anyone to come. Suya walked between us, her gaze shifting between my face and Linji's, finally settling on me as she gently said, "Manluo, don't be angry, Linji certainly didn't mean to stop you on purpose." Then she turned to Linji, her face showing concern. "Linji, I know your father's situation is making you anxious, but you can't use this method, it will scare Manluo." Her words seemed to be urging reconciliation, but in fact, she had already accepted that Linji stopping me was for a reason, the only mistake being the wrong approach. Linji immediately followed her lead, his face feigning a hint of grievance. "I really had no other choice, Suya, you don't know, my father's illness." All right, I know it's hard for you," Suya interrupted him, gently patting his arm in a gesture so intimate it seemed like she was comforting a wronged younger brother. "But Manluo has her own difficulties too. That bonus means a lot to her, and it's understandable that she's reluctant to part with it easily." As she spoke, she turned her gaze toward me, her eyes filled with a kind of "I understand everything" compassion. "Manluo, I know you're not a cold-hearted person. The fact that you risked your life to save 3 children shows that you have the softest heart." Linji was just pushed to his limits, that's why he acted this way. "Please try to be more understanding, we're all classmates, and we'll see each other often. It wouldn't be good for things to turn sour between us, and what's more," she suddenly changed her tone, lowering her voice even further, as if afraid someone might overhear. "There's a lot of gossip about you going around the school right now. If you could help Linji out, everyone would surely say you're kind and generous, and all those unpleasant rumors would naturally disappear. Think about it, wouldn't that be good for both you and Linji?" Listen to that, how thoughtful of her. She's using soft-hearted to put me on a moral pedestal, then forcing me to comply with rumors and gossip, all while packaging it as a win-win situation. This method is far more sophisticated than Linji's tantrums and tricks. In my previous life, I was deceived by her gentle persuasion, believing she truly had my best interests at heart, and I repeatedly compromised and retreated. But now, I just feel disgusted. "Suya," I said, looking at her with a calm tone, "you seem to know a lot about what's between us." Suya paused for a moment, then put on an innocent expression. I just heard everyone talking about it and thought you both had it tough. Is that so?" I smiled, my sharp gaze sweeping over her. "Then do you know what Linji wanted to do by having people block me?" Suya's face turned slightly pale, her eyes flickering. I just arrived. I'm not too sure." "Linji, you wouldn't really want to do something to Manluo, would you? That wouldn't do at all." She began to lecture Linji with righteousness, as if she hadn't just hinted to me that a little help could quell the rumors. Linji was clearly getting impatient. He had intended to threaten me, but with Suya's interruption, his momentum was significantly weakened. "I don't want to do anything," he said irritably. "I just want her to give me the money." "Linji," Suya frowned, her tone carrying a hint of reproach. "How can you still say such things? Manluo would never." "Suya," I interrupted her again, "if you really think he's in the wrong, you should pull him away instead of trying to persuade me to be understanding here. If you feel sorry for his father and want to help, you can give him your own money, no one is stopping you, but don't impose your moral standards on me. Whether I help him or not is my own choice. It's not your place to tell me what to do." My words struck Suya like a slap across the face, her face instantly flushed crimson, the innocence and gentleness in her eyes vanishing without a trace, replaced by a hint of embarrassment and irritation. "Manluo, how could you say that? I just wanted to help you resolve the conflict." "Resolve the conflict," I sneered. "You just want me to compromise so you can keep playing the good guy, right? Watching me get morally pressured. Do you feel particularly superior, thinking you're kinder and more sensible than I am?" Suya was caught off guard by my words, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. The 2 boys beside her probably hadn't expected things to turn out this way either, their faces showing amusement, and their attitude towards Suya becoming flippant. "Oh, isn't this the great beauty, Sue? What, couldn't play the peacemaker this time? I think this girl is pretty tough, not someone you can easily bully." Linji's expression grew increasingly grim. He had originally intended to use Suya to ease the tension and then force me to comply, but to his surprise, Suya was put on the spot by a few words of mine, making him even more embarrassed. "Cut the nonsense," he suddenly glared at me. "To a Manluo, I'm asking you one last time, are you giving me the money or not? No. I met his gaze without flinching. Fine, fine, fine. Linji repeated the word 3 times, his eyes flashing with a fierce light. Don't regret this, he said, and suddenly took a step forward, reaching out to grab my arm. This time, I was prepared. As I sidestepped to avoid him, I pulled out my phone from my pocket, pressed the record button, and shouted loudly, Linji, what do you want to do? Are you trying to rob me in broad daylight? My voice was loud, especially piercing in the quiet night. Linji's hand froze in midair, and the 2 boys were stunned. They didn't expect me to dare to shout so loudly. Suya was also startled and instinctively took a step back. What are you shouting for? Linji was both shocked and angry. Who's trying to rob anyone? You brought people to block me and forced me to give you money. If that's not robbery, what is? I held up my phone, my tone firm. I've already recorded this. If you dare to lay a hand on me again, I'll call the police right now. By then, the attempted robbery, along with the previous harassment, will be enough to deal with you. I deliberately emphasized the word robbery. Linji's face turned pale instantly. He only wanted to threaten me and never thought about being charged with robbery, especially when he heard the words recording. Fear filled his eyes. The 2 boys also seemed a bit panicked, exchanged glances, and took a step back, clearly not wanting to get involved. You dare to set me up? Linji pointed at me, his voice trembling. I'm just protecting myself, I said coldly. You pushed me first, Linji. That's enough. One of the boys pulled on his arm. This girl is prepared. Don't escalate things too much. Another boy chimed in. Exactly. If the police catch us, it'll be a hassle. Let's leave first and figure it out later. Linji looked at the phone in my hand, then at the 2 boys beside him who clearly didn't want to help, and then at Suya, who looked extremely awkward. He realized he wasn't going to get any advantage today. He glared at me fiercely, the venom in his eyes almost palpable. Tua Manluo, you just wait for me. After throwing down a harsh remark, he turned and left. The 2 boys quickly followed him. Suya looked at Linji's retreating figure, then at me, opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the end, she didn't speak. She just glared at me fiercely and hurried away. The surroundings finally quieted down. My hand holding the phone was soaked with cold sweat. Although I had appeared calm just now, I was actually very scared inside. If they really rushed up without any regard, I wouldn't have had any chance to resist, but I know I cannot retreat 1 step back, and it's a bottomless abyss. I take a deep breath, steady myself, and quickly head toward the dormitory. On the way, I listened to the recording several times, making sure I've captured Lin Ji's threats in the voices of those 2 boys, before feeling slightly relieved. While this may not necessarily serve as strong evidence, it at least acts as a deterrent. Back at the dormitory, Qinshui noticed my pale complexion and anxiously asked what was wrong. I recounted the incident to her. This is too much. Qinshui was trembling with anger. How dare Linji do this? And Suya, she actually sided with Linji. I've always felt something was off with Suya. She seems gentle and kind on the surface, but she's the best at sowing discord. Last time Linji caused a scene in class, she was saying things like, Manluo, if you don't help him, people will gossip about you. I felt uncomfortable about it at the time. I nodded. That's just how she is. On the surface, she's mediating, but in reality, she's helping Linji put pressure on me. People like her are even more terrifying than Linji. Linji's bad behavior is out in the open, but Suya's malice hides behind her gentle mask, making it impossible to guard against. What should we do now? Qinshui said worriedly. Linji has already sent people to block you. What if he takes even more extreme actions? I don't know, I said, looking out at the heavy night outside the window, but I know he won't let it go easily. We can only be more careful, and I can't just keep defending passively. Qinshui looked at me. What do you want to do? Isn't he trying to ruin my reputation? My eyes turned cold. Then I'll let everyone see what kind of person he really is first. In my previous life, I didn't know until my death that Linji not only cheated me out of my money but also did many shady things behind my back. In this life, although I don't have the ability to foresee the future, I can investigate his so-called difficulties and uncover the truth behind his tears. I want everyone to see what kind of person they are sympathizing with. In the following days, I went about my classes and studies as usual on the surface, but secretly I began to pay attention to every move Linji made. I knew where Linji's weakness lay. He cared most about others' sympathy for him and was most afraid of others discovering his true nature. So, I can't act rashly. I asked Qinshui to keep an eye on Linji's movements and his conversations with others, while I focused on the internet. In my previous life, Linji had once gloated to me about how skilled he was at using the internet to raise money. I remember he mentioned a few crowdfunding platforms and his commonly used social media accounts. I tried searching for Linji and his father's name on those crowdfunding platforms, and sure enough, I found the project he had launched. The project description was written with tears and emotion, describing his father's condition as extremely severe and portraying their family as utterly destitute, with a target amount boldly set at 300,000. There were already quite a few donations below, and the comment section was filled with words of sympathy and encouragement. I took a few screenshots and carefully reviewed the project's update records. He updates a progress report on his condition every day, with content that is largely the same, such as critical condition and urgently needs money. The accompanying images are either photos of his father lying in a hospital bed, faces not visible, or blurred payment receipts. It seems flawless, but I know it's all a carefully woven lie. I tried searching for his social media accounts again. He was cautious, not using his real name, and his profile picture was a landscape photo, but I remember in his previous life, he liked to post some reflections on his account, always carrying a sense of resentment about unrecognized talent between the lines. Based on this characteristic, I repeatedly screened through several platforms where he might be active and finally found a suspicious account. The owner of this account called himself a student from a humble background, often posting complaints about life's unfairness and lamenting the cruelty of fate, occasionally mixed with a few words of disdain for the rich. The latest post was made 3 days ago. Some people, with blood-soaked money, treat human life as worthless. Such heroes are better off not existing. Although not explicitly stated, given the timing and context, it's almost certain that it's about me. I scrolled back through his posts and found something even more interesting. Half a month ago, he posted a status with a picture of a pair of brand new limited edition sneakers in the text, "After so much effort, I finally got them. It's worth it. I have an impression of those sneakers. Linji wore them in my previous life, and he said at the time that someone had given them to him, but the price of those sneakers was at least 5,000 yuan. How could a poor student, whose home is bare and whose father is seriously ill and urgently needs money, afford such expensive sneakers?" I took a screenshot and continued scrolling down. A month ago, he posted a photo of a restaurant, tagged at a high-end Western restaurant, with the caption, "Sometimes you have to treat yourself." On the table in the photo, there was red wine and an exquisite steak. At that time, he should have been worrying about his father's 300,000 surgery fee. There was an earlier post, a photo of him with a girl, with an amusement park in the background, and the caption, "A happy day. I also know that girl. She's from the class next door and usually dresses very fashionably, so her family's financial situation must be quite good." In my previous life, Linji never mentioned to me that he had a girlfriend. I took screenshots and saved all these suspicious updates. Although these cannot directly prove that he is lying, they at least indicate that his poverty and despair likely contain a lot of exaggeration. In addition to clues from the internet, Chen Shui also brought me some news. Man Luo, I heard from Linji's roommate that he has been frequently absent from the dorm lately, coming back very late at night, and every time he returns, he carries the smell of smoke and alcohol. Also, he seems to have bought a new phone a few days ago, the latest model, costing several thousand. He said it was a gift from a relative, but his roommate claims to have never seen him with any wealthy relatives. Oh, and Suya has been getting particularly close to Linji recently. I often see them eating together in the cafeteria, and Suya even brings him breakfast. What Chen Shui said coincided with the clues I found online. How could a person with a seriously ill father and an urgent need for money have the mind to smoke, drink, buy a new phone, or date? The answer is only one. He wasn't as short of money as he appeared to be, or rather, his so-called lack of money was only directed at me. He cried poor online to scam donations, squandered the money he got from the scam, and didn't forget to continue moral blackmailing me, trying to take my 300,000 for himself as well. What a clever scheme indeed. How many people know about these things? I asked Chen Shui. Probably not many. Chen Shui thought for a moment. Linji isn't very sociable in class, and his roommates don't have a great relationship with him either. No one pays much attention to him. Suya is close to him, but she certainly wouldn't badmouth him. What if more people found out? I looked at Chen Shui. A glimmer of shrewdness in my eyes. Chen Shui was taken aback for a moment, then understood what I meant. You want to make these things public? Yes, I nodded, but it can't come from us. If we say it, people will think we're deliberately trying to smear him and will end up sympathizing with him instead. We need to let others accidentally discover these things. Chen Shui's eyes lit up. I get it. We can have his roommate accidentally spill the beans, or let everyone coincidentally see his new phone and those updates. Exactly, I smiled. Linji loves taking advantage of others' sympathy, doesn't he? Then let's show everyone what kind of person they're actually sympathizing with, but we need to be discreet about it. We can't let him find out it was us. Got it. Leave it to me. Chen Shui patted her chest confidently. I'll make sure it's handled perfectly. Seeing Chen Shui's energetic demeanor, A warm current surged within me. In my previous life, I distanced myself from all those who truly cared for me due to Lin Ji's affair, ultimately ending up with everyone turning against me this time around. It's so good to have Qinshua supporting me by my side. In the following days, Qinshua began to subtly spread the news in the dormitory corridors and class group chats. She would talk to Lin Ji's roommates about how expensive everything has been lately. I can't even afford a new phone. Guiding them to mention that Lin Ji had bought a new phone she would accidentally mention during conversations with other classmates. I think I saw Lin Ji dining at the Western restaurant near the school gate yesterday. She did it very subtly, never directly accusing Lin Ji, but just casually mentioning it as if sharing daily life. However, these words, like stones thrown into a lake, quickly caused ripples. More and more people began to notice Lin Ji's oddness. Hey, you know what? I think I saw Lin Ji using a new phone, one of those really expensive ones. Didn't he say his family was poor? How can he afford it? And I saw him shopping with Suya near the school mall last time, carrying several shopping bags. Isn't his father still in the hospital waiting for surgery? How can he still have the mood to go shopping? The voices of doubt grew louder and louder. Lin Ji also clearly sensed that something was off. He was becoming increasingly sensitive. If someone looked at him a little too long, he would grow very tense and might even lash out with harsh words. His relationship with Suya had also become somewhat delicate. Once, I was eating in the cafeteria and happened to see them sitting together. Suya must have said something, because Lin Ji suddenly flew into a rage, slammed his chopsticks on the table, and growled a few words under his breath. Suya was stunned by his outburst, her eyes immediately reddening, her aggrieved lip drew the stares of the people nearby. Lin Ji seemed to realize his loss of composure, his expression changing, but he didn't apologize, he just shoveled a few bites of food into his mouth and then got up and left. Suya sat there, her eyes red, on the verge of tears, and whispered to herself, I just wanted to help you. This scene won a lot of sympathy. What's wrong with Lin Ji? Suya was trying to help him, and he still got angry. Exactly, Suya has been good enough to him. If it were me, I would have given up long ago. Watching Suya's pitiful appearance, I sneered inwardly. She's acting again. Sure enough, within 2 days, Suya came up with something new. That afternoon during the class meeting, the homeroom teacher was summarizing last week's learning progress. Suddenly, Suya raised her hand and said timidly, Teacher, I have something I'd like to share with everyone. The homeroom teacher was taken aback for a moment, then nodded and said, Go ahead. Suya stood up, took an envelope from her school bag, walked to the podium, and handed it to the homeroom teacher with both hands. Teacher, this is 5,000 yuan I've saved up. I want to donate it to Lin Ji, hoping it can help his father with his medical treatment. Her voice was not loud, but it clearly reached every corner of the classroom. Everyone was stunned. 5,000 yuan is not a small amount for a student, especially for Suya. Although she usually dresses decently, everyone knows her family is just ordinary. This money was probably saved up by her through frugality over a long time. Suya, you, the homeroom teacher was also somewhat surprised, with reddened eyes. Suya shook her head and said, Teacher, I know 5,000 yuan isn't much, and it might not be of much help, but I really can't stand seeing Lin Ji in such a difficult situation, nor can I stand everyone arguing endlessly over this matter. Man Luo doesn't want to help, and there might be her own reasons for that. I don't blame her, but I want to do my small part, hoping to inspire everyone to help Lin Ji together. As she spoke, her gaze swept over me intentionally or unintentionally, with a hint of subtle provocation in her eyes. Wow, this move is ruthless. First, he takes out 5,000 yuan to establish his image of being kind and generous, then, he appears to defend me, but in fact, he confirms the fact that I'm unwilling to help. Finally, he calls on everyone to donate together, expanding the scope of moral coercion to the entire class, and I, as the one who holds the 300,000 yuan prize money but refuses to give a single cent, naturally become the target of public criticism. Sure enough, as soon as Suya finished speaking, the classroom erupted in chaos. Suya is too kind, she's not even well off herself, yet she donated so much. Yeah, in comparison, sigh, I'll donate a little too, though it's not much, but it's better than nothing. I'll donate too. Soon, several classmates took out their wallets, walked up to the podium, and handed the money to the homeroom teacher. The homeroom teacher looked at the money on the podium, then glanced at Suya, and nodded. Suya has done very well. This spirit of mutual assistance and friendship is worth learning from. Everyone should contribute according to their ability. The intention is what matters. Suya stood on the podium, receiving everyone's praise and admiration, a shy yet gratified smile appearing on her face. Her gaze turned to me once more, carrying the demeanor of a victor, as if to say, see, everyone is on my side. The surrounding eyes also turned toward me in unison. Some accusatory, some disappointed, and others waiting to see the drama unfold. Jinshua's face turned red with anger as she whispered in my ear, "This is too much. She's doing this on purpose." I took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in my heart. Suya's move was indeed quite clever. With just 5,000 yuan, she pushed me to the opposite side of everyone. If I don't donate, it will confirm my reputation as cold-blooded and selfish. If I do donate, all my previous efforts will be in vain, and it will only embolden Linji and Suya to push further. But she miscalculated one thing. I hold evidence against her and Linji. At that moment, Suya spoke again, her voice carrying a hint of hope. "Manluo, I know you're not unwilling to help, just concerned. Now everyone is doing their part, so are you." She didn't finish her sentence, but the meaning was clear. All eyes were on me, waiting for my response. Linji sat in his seat, his head down, his expression indiscernible, but I could feel his tense body. He was waiting for me to obediently hand over the 30,000, just like in my previous life. Under the gaze of everyone, I slowly stood up. The classroom fell silent instantly. "Suya," I began, my voice calm, "your willingness to donate money to Linji is a testament to your kindness, and I deeply admire that." A smug smile spread across Suya's face, but I changed the tone. "Your kindness should not be used as a tool to manipulate others." Suya's smile froze. "Donating 5,000 yuan is your choice. Whether others donate or not, and how much they donate, is also their own choice. You cannot demand that others must donate just because you have, and even less can you require them to donate according to your standards, especially me." I looked at Suya and said word by word, "The 300,000 in my hand is a reward for bravery, not a charity fund. I have already donated 30,000 to the school's relief fund to help everyone in need, including Linji. This is the limit of what I can do. As for giving money directly to Linji, I have made it clear that it's impossible. No matter how many people donate, no matter who donates, my decision will not change." My words were like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the donation enthusiasm that had just ignited in the classroom. Those who were waiting to see me make a fool of myself wore expressions of disappointment on their faces. Suya's face turned very pale. She hadn't expected me to be so unmovable. "Manluo, how can you say that?" Her voice carried a hint of grievance. "I didn't kidnap you. You just wanted everyone to think I should donate that 30,000, right?" I interrupted her. "You just wanted to use your 5,000 to highlight my stinginess, right?" Suya's face flushed instantly. "I didn't. Don't slander me. Whether I'm making false accusations, you know in your heart." I looked at her, while saying Manluo has her reasons. "You use your own donations to guide everyone in blaming me. Don't you think such tactics are too despicable?" And classmate Linji, I turned my gaze to Linji. "Suya was willing to give 5,000 yuan for your sake. What about you? You used everyone's donations to buy limited edition sneakers, dine at high-end restaurants, and go on dates at amusement parks. Doesn't your conscience ache?" My words exploded like a bomb in the classroom. Everyone was stunned. "What? Linji bought limited edition sneakers? He even went to a high-end restaurant for a meal, on a date? How is that possible? Didn't he say his family was dirt poor?" Linji suddenly raised his head, his face as pale as paper, his eyes filled with terror and rage. "What nonsense are you talking to, Manluo? Stop slandering me here." "Slandering you?" I sneered, took out my phone, opened a screenshot, and held it up. "These limited edition sneakers, you bought them half a month ago, right? Over 5,000 yuan. Isn't that a bit too extravagant for a poor student whose father is seriously ill and urgently needs money?" Although the phone screen wasn't large, the students in the front row could still see it clearly. That screenshot was exactly the photo of the sneakers I had previously found on Linji's social media account. Linji's body trembled violently, his lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. Suya was also stunned. She clearly had no idea that Linji had this up his sleeve. "And this one," I clicked open another photo of a restaurant, this Western restaurant, with a per capita consumption of at least 500. "Did you ever think about your father waiting for life-saving money in the hospital when you rewarded yourself here a month ago?" And this one, I continued to click open a photo of him with that girl. "This is a classmate from the next class, right? Whose money did you use when you went on a date at the amusement park? Was it the 5,000 donated by Suya, or the life-saving money raised on the crowdfunding platform?" One screenshot after another, like slaps, hit Linji's face hard. It also hit the faces of everyone who sympathized with Linji. The classroom was deathly silent. Everyone stared in shock at the screenshot on my phone, then turned to look at Linji, whose face had turned ashen. The classmates who had previously donated money looked utterly horrified. They finally realized what their sympathy had been taken for. Suya's face alternated between red and white. She looked at Linji, her eyes filled With shock and disbelief, along with a hint of anger at being deceived, she probably never expected that the person she had devoted so much effort to helping would turn out to be such a fraud. You, Linji pointed at me, trembling with anger, unable to utter a single word. What about me? I put away my phone and looked at him coldly. Linji, I have plenty more screenshots like these, including evidence of you exaggerating your illness and inflating the amount on the crowdfunding platform. If you want to keep acting, I don't mind posting all of this on the school forum so the entire school can see your true colors. Linji's body swayed, nearly collapsing into his seat. He looked at me, his eyes filled with fear and resentment, but more than anything, despair. He knew he was completely finished. You're too cruel, to a Manluo. You're too cruel, he muttered. Me, cruel? I laughed. Compared to you pushing me down the stairs in my last life, what does this even count as? As soon as the words left my mouth, I regretted it. I almost forgot. This was the secret of rebirth. It couldn't be spoken out loud. Fortunately, everyone around was too shocked by Linji's situation to notice anything unusual about my words. Finally, the homeroom teacher reacted. He looked at Linji, his face ashen. Linji, what exactly is going on here? Linji lay on the desk, burying his head in his arms, and did not answer, but his silence had already said it all. The homeroom teacher took a deep breath, suppressing his anger. This matter will be thoroughly investigated by the school. Linji, come with me to the office. After speaking, he glanced at Suya again, his expression complex, and in the end, said nothing as he led Linji out of the classroom. Suya stood on the podium, still clutching the empty envelope, her face pale as a clown, enduring everyone's strange gazes. She probably never dreamed that her carefully planned moral coercion would end up like this. The classroom was deathly silent. After a long time, some classmates began to whisper among themselves, "My goodness, he's a fraud. How disgusting. He played on our sympathy and squandered our money. Suya is so unfortunate. She tried to help someone in good faith, only to be taken for a fool. Manluo is really sharp. She saw through his true nature long ago. I used to misunderstand Manluo, but she was right all along." Listening to these discussions, I felt no sense of satisfaction, only a weary sense of finality. This battle, I have won, but the victory did not come easily. I look out the window. The sunlight is just right. The nightmare from the previous life has finally come to an end in this one. Linji's matter caused a huge uproar at the school. The school quickly formed an investigation team. After verification, Linji's father's condition does exist, but it is far less severe than he claimed. The surgery cost plus follow-up treatment would amount to at most 150,000 yuan. He exaggerated the condition and inflated the amount on the crowdfunding platform, raising a total of over 80,000 yuan. However, most of this money was squandered by him, buying sneakers, purchasing a new phone, going on dates with his girlfriend, and frequenting high-end venues. He did apply for the school's relief fund earlier, but because he did not meet the criteria for the maximum amount, only 30,000 yuan was approved. This money was also misappropriated by him. As for the 5,000 yuan donated by Suya, he immediately used it to buy a new gaming console. After the truth was revealed, the whole school was in an uproar. Those who had once sympathized with Linji and accused me all felt deep shame. They began to apologize to me in the class group and on the school forum. Manluo, I'm sorry. I was too foolish before, deceived by Linji, and misunderstood you. Manluo, you're right. We shouldn't have used moral coercion on you. You've been wronged. Support Manluo. The reward for bravery should be entirely up to you to decide. Suya became the most awkward person. Not only did she donate money, but she also spoke up for Linji everywhere, even scheming to force me to donate, only to find out that she had been helping a fraud all along. She became the laughingstock of the entire school. Some called her the stupid saint, while others labeled her an accomplice. She no longer had that gentle and kind demeanor she once possessed. She spent her days with her head down, afraid to face anyone, and soon after, she took a leave of absence. As for Linji, he received the school's harshest punishment, expulsion. At the same time, the school also contacted the crowdfunding platform, requesting him to return all the donations. His family also became aware of the situation, and it is said that his father's condition worsened due to anger, causing chaos at home. Later, it was heard that he was taken back to his hometown by his family and never appeared at the school again. This storm finally completely subsided. At school, no one gossips about me anymore, nor do they look at me with strange eyes. The way everyone looks at me has returned to the initial admiration and respect. Even with an extra touch of awe, they admire me for sticking to my principles, not being morally coerced, and for exposing the true face of the scammer. Qinshui was even happier than I was. Manluo, that's great. Finally, no one is speaking ill of you anymore. I smiled and said, yes. It's all in the past. What are you going to do with that bonus? Qinshui asked. Curiously, I'll save some for tuition and living expenses, I said. The rest, I want to use to take a few interest classes and learn some things I enjoy. In my previous life, I gave up many of the things I loved because of Lin Ji's influence, living cautiously and exhausted. This life, I will live for myself. Do what you want to do, live the life you want to live. Great. Qin Shui clapped her hands and said, I support you. What do you want to learn? I'll join you. All right. Looking at Qin Shui's sincere smile, I felt warm inside. Life finally returned to normal. I attend classes, study, and participate in interest classes every day, occasionally going shopping and watching movies with Qin Shui. Without Lin Ji's harassment, without rumors, without moral coercion, my life has become peaceful and fulfilling. Sometimes, I think about my past life, that passionate, impulsive, yet weak and overly concerned with others' opinions girl. If it weren't for that rebirth, I probably would never have escaped that strange cycle of moral coercion, ultimately repeating the tragedy of my previous life. But now, I have broken free from the shackles. I understand that kindness is a choice, not an obligation. I can be kind, but my kindness must have an edge and a bottom line. I can help others, but I cannot ruin my own life because of helping others. That day, as I passed by the school bulletin board, I saw a new notice posted on it. It was a follow-up report about commending students for their courageous acts. In the report, the details of my rescue were described in detail, as well as what happened afterwards. The last paragraph was written by the principal. Acts of bravery are commendable virtues, but we must also understand that heroes are ordinary people who have their own lives and rights. We should not use the title of hero to coerce them into selfless dedication. True respect lies in understanding their choices, protecting their rights, rather than forcing them into a corner. With moral shackles, looking at this passage, I smiled. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling the bulletin board and falling on me warm and bright. I knew that my new life was just beginning, and this time, I would firmly grasp my own destiny, never allowing anyone or anything to destroy it again. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.